It was a sunny afternoon. The streets were busy, filled with families and laughter. Children ran around holding balloons and ice cream cones. In the middle of this joyful day, a 12-year-old girl named Amara stepped out of a toy store. She held a small doll in her hand, a brown doll with curly hair, just like her own. She had seen it many times in the store window and always wanted it. Today, she had saved enough pocket money to buy it. Amara stood near the exit of the store, her face calm but her hands a little shaky. She opened her small backpack and started searching for her wallet. "I know it's in here somewhere," she whispered to herself, digging deeper. But then, before she could find it, two police officers walked toward her. One of them, tall with sunglasses and a serious face, looked straight at the doll in her hand. "You didn't pay for that," he said in a cold voice. Amara looked up, confused and scared. I was going to pay. I just need a minute." But the officers didn't listen. The second officer stepped closer. "Don't lie. We've seen enough of this. Come with us." Amara's heart pounded. Her eyes filled with tears, and her hands shook even more. She looked around, hoping someone would help. But people were just staring. Some whispered. A few pulled out their phones. One woman, standing near the coffee shop, started recording the scene. "Please," Amara said softly. "I didn't steal it." The first officer grabbed her arm. "Let's go." Amara tried to pull away, but she was too small, too scared. Her voice broke as she said, "I was just trying to find my money." The officers didn't care. They began walking her toward their car. The crowd followed, murmuring. Then suddenly, a calm but powerful voice came from behind. "Let her go." The crowd turned. The officers stopped. Standing a few steps away was a tall, well-dressed black man. He wore a dark suit and sunglasses. His face was calm, but there was something strong in his voice, something that made people listen. The officer holding Amara turned around. "This is police business. Please step back." The man didn't move. He walked slowly toward them. "I said," he repeated, "let her go." There was a long silence. The only sound was the quiet beep of a car alarm in the distance and the soft wind blowing through the trees. The second officer stepped forward. "Sir, we don't need you interfering." The man reached into his coat pocket. The crowd held their breath. The officers placed their hands on their belts, ready for anything. But the man didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a badge. He held it up calmly. The officers froze. Their faces changed. One of them stepped back. The man spoke again. His voice was steady and clear. "I am Agent Marcus Daniels, Federal Investigations Division. And that's my daughter." There was a sudden silence in the crowd. Amara looked up at the man, her eyes wide. "Dad." He nodded at her gently. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here." The officers looked at each other. The one holding Amara let go of her arm. His voice now shaky. "Sir, we didn't know." Agent Daniels didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You didn't ask," he said. The woman recording zoomed in, capturing everything. People around began whispering louder now. Some were angry, some surprised. One man in the crowd said, "They just grabbed her like that." A teenage boy added, "They didn't even check first." Agent Daniels turned to his daughter. "Are you okay?" Amara nodded slowly, still trying to hold back her tears. He put his arm around her and looked back at the officers. "You're going to explain this. Every part of it." The officers stood frozen. They didn't know what to say. And the crowd? They had questions now. Big ones. The sun was still shining, but the air around the toy store felt different now. People were no longer smiling or laughing. They stood quietly, watching what had just happened. Amara stayed close to her father, Agent Marcus Daniels. Her small hand held tightly onto his suit jacket, like a child holding onto safety after a storm. The two police officers looked uncomfortable. The taller one removed his sunglasses and stepped forward. "Sir, we didn't know she was your daughter. She matched the description we got. Someone reported a girl stealing. Agent Daniels raised his hand slightly, cutting him off. You didn't stop to ask questions. You didn't listen to her. You assumed, because of her skin. The officer opened his mouth to speak again, but no words came out. Marcus looked down at his daughter. She wasn't crying anymore, but her eyes were still wet. Her doll had fallen to the ground during the struggle. He picked it up and handed it to her. You okay, baby girl? She nodded slowly. I'm okay now, Daddy. The woman who had recorded the scene stepped forward. I got everything on video. The way they treated her, it wasn't right. Marcus gave her a small nod. Thank you. He looked back at the officers. What's your badge number? Both officers hesitated. I asked you a question, he said, his voice colder now. They answered quickly. He pulled out his phone and typed something in. I'll be making a formal report, he said. And I want the store's camera footage too. Amara tugged on her father's arm. Can we go home now? Yes, he said, gently stroking her hair. Let's go. Later that evening, at home, their apartment was quiet. Amara sat on the couch, hugging her doll. Her father walked in with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Hers had extra marshmallows, just how she liked it. She took the mug and looked up at him. Daddy, why did they think I stole it? He sat down beside her. Because some people judge before they understand. They see your skin, and they decide who you are before you even speak. That's not fair, she said softly. No, it's not, he replied. That's why I do what I do. That's why I became an agent. Amara looked at him with wide eyes. To stop people like them. To protect people like you. People who get judged for no reason. People who deserve to be safe. Amara stayed quiet for a moment. Did anyone ever treat you like that? He gave a small, sad smile. Many times, when I was your age, older kids would call me names. Even some teachers treated me differently. But I worked hard. I stayed strong. And I promised myself I'd change things. Is it working? She asked. He looked at her seriously. Not yet. But I haven't given up. The next morning, the video goes viral. By the next day, everything had changed. The video from the toy store was everywhere, on social media, on the news, in group chats. Millions of people were talking about it. Some were angry. Some were crying. And some were sharing their own stories. #Justice for Amara began trending. Strangers from all over the country started sending messages. People sent gifts, letters, and artwork. One girl wrote, Amara, you are brave. I believe you. But not all messages were kind. Some were mean. Some blamed Amara. Some said her father was just showing off his power. Amara scrolled through a few of the comments before her father took the phone from her. Don't read those, sweetheart. Some people are just loud and wrong. Why are they so angry at me? Because the truth scares them. The officers face consequences. At the police station, things were not calm. The video had caused a storm. The officers involved were put on leave. An internal investigation began. The chief gave a public statement saying the department would take the matter seriously. But Agent Daniels wasn't done yet. He walked into a federal building the next day with files in his hand and fire in his heart. He spoke to leaders, filed reports, and made sure this case wouldn't be hidden or forgotten. This is not just about my daughter, he said. This is about every child who gets treated like a criminal before they're even seen as a person. That night, a quiet moment. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She walked to her father's room and knocked softly. He opened the door. What's wrong, baby? Can I sleep here tonight? He nodded. Of course. She climbed into the bed beside him, her doll still in her arms. Daddy? Yes? Will things ever get better? He looked at her for a long moment. I don't know how long it will take, he said, but I promise you this. I will never stop fighting for you. She closed her eyes and whispered, I love you. I love you more. The next morning, The world had changed for Amara. She didn't know it at first. She was still asleep, curled up in her bed with her favorite doll beside her. But her father, Marcus Daniels, was already awake, standing in the kitchen with his phone buzzing nonstop. Ping, ping, ping. His inbox was full. News reporters, activists, friends, even strangers. Everyone wanted to talk to him. The video had gone viral. The internet erupts. The woman who recorded the scene had uploaded the video the night before with the caption, "They accused this little girl of stealing. They didn't ask questions." Then her father showed up, and everything changed. The clip was just 2 minutes long, but it spread like wildfire. Millions of people watched it. Some cried. Some got angry. Some shared their own stories. #Justice for Amara was trending in over 20 countries. Celebrities tweeted about it. Activists reposted the video. TV news anchors played the footage with serious faces. Amara's quiet voice saying, "I was going to pay," echoed through screens everywhere. TV news flash. A federal agent's daughter wrongly accused of theft by local police. Community demands justice after viral video of young girl detained without cause. News channels kept playing the same scene. Amara standing helplessly. The officers grabbing her. Agent Daniels stepping forward. The badge. The freeze. Again and again, people watched. Amara tries to understand. Back at home, Amara sat on the living room couch with her father. Her face was quiet, serious. She had seen the video now. She had heard her own voice shaking. She had seen her father's face as he walked toward her. "I didn't know so many people would see it," she whispered. Her father nodded. "Sometimes the truth doesn't whisper, it shouts. But now everyone is talking about me. Because what happened to you happens to others. You didn't ask to be a voice. But now you are." She looked down. "It's scary." He gently took her hand. Being brave always is. Online support and hate. Thousands of kind messages came in. "Amara, you are strong. You did nothing wrong. We're proud of you. This happened to my nephew too. Thank you for sharing this." People sent gifts. Dolls that looked like her. Books about brave girls. A drawing of Amara with the words "hero" in a hoodie. But not all messages were kind. Some were cruel. She probably did steal. Just another brat using her dad's job. Fake drama. When Amara saw one of those comments, her smile faded. Her father took her phone away. "Don't give them your eyes. They're not worth it." School trouble. At school, things were different now too. Some kids whispered in the halls. Some stared. One boy said, "You're famous now." Another laughed, "Do you carry a badge like your dad?" Some kids were kind, but others just didn't understand. During lunch, Amara sat alone, her food untouched. The principal called her to the office later. "I saw the video," she said kindly. "What happened to you was wrong. We stand with you." She gave Amara a handmade card signed by every teacher. "We want you to feel safe here." Amara gave a small smile. "Thank you." Marcus takes a stand. Agent Daniels wasn't quiet either. He appeared on a talk show. The host asked, "Why speak out now?" He answered firmly, "Because silence is what allowed this to happen." He talked about how many children like Amara faced the same fear. He didn't speak with anger. He spoke with strength, and people listened. Some called him a hero. Others called him dangerous for telling the truth. But he didn't stop. Police department under fire. The city's police department was now under investigation. Protests started outside the station. People held signs. "Protect all children. Ask before you accuse. Amara deserves better." The 2 officers were suspended. One of them tried to apologize on TV, but it didn't feel honest. People weren't satisfied. The pressure was growing. And still, Marcus stayed calm. "Let the truth do the talking," he told the news cameras. The lawyers visit. That evening, a knock came at their door. It was a woman in a gray suit with kind eyes. "I'm a civil rights lawyer," she said, "and I think you should sue." Marcus hesitated. "This was more than just a mistake," she said. "It was profiling. It was abuse of power." "I don't want to make this worse for my daughter," Marcus replied. "But think of all the other daughters like her," the lawyer said softly. "This isn't just about Amara anymore." Marcus looked at Amara, who was listening from the hallway. She nodded. "Let's do it," she said. End scene. Power in her eyes. That night, Amara stood by her bedroom window. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. She wasn't just a little girl anymore. She was a voice, a symbol, a fighter, and she didn't even mean to be. Her father joined her at the window. "Are you ready for what's next?" he asked. She held his hand. "I think I am." Days passed. The noise around the video was still strong, but something had changed. Now it wasn't just about what happened at the toy store. People were digging deeper, not into Amara, into her father, Agent Marcus Daniels. News turns personal. One morning, Marcus was drinking coffee at the kitchen table. The TV was on in the background. The headline on the screen caught his eye. "Who is Agent Daniels really?" The anchor spoke in a serious voice. "He's being called a hero by some, but others say he's hiding something. New questions are being asked about his past cases, his work, and even his family." Marcus's face darkened. Amara, sitting nearby, looked up. "Why are they saying that?" He didn't answer right away. "Because some people don't want change. So they try to change the story." A secret case resurfaces. Later that day, Marcus got a call. It was from an old contact, someone he hadn't heard from in years. "You need to see this," the voice said. That evening, a file was delivered to his apartment. It was plain and unmarked. Inside were documents, pictures, and a name that made Marcus's heart stop. Case #4187. Officer Miller Incident. It was a case Marcus worked on over 10 years ago. A case that went quiet after threats. A case that involved one of the same officers who had grabbed Amara at the toy store. Officer Kyle Miller. The cover-up. Back then, Marcus had investigated a report of police using force against young black boys at a local park. Witnesses gave statements. One boy ended up in the hospital. But before the case could go to trial, it was closed. Suddenly, quietly. The official reason: lack of evidence. But Marcus always knew the truth. Someone had buried it. And now, seeing Officer Miller in the video with Amara, it was no longer a coincidence. A quiet call, a loud warning. That night, Marcus's phone rang again. A voice he didn't recognize said only one sentence: "You should back off before your daughter pays the price." Then the call ended. Amara hears everything. Marcus thought Amara was asleep. She wasn't. She had heard the phone call. She had heard the threat. She walked into the living room, her face pale. "Daddy, they're going to hurt me." Marcus rushed to her and hugged her tightly. "No, no one will hurt you. Not while I'm alive." Her voice shook. "But why are they doing this?" "Because I'm opening a door they've kept locked for years." "But should we stop?" He looked into her eyes. "No. Now we go all the way." A new fight. The next day, Marcus contacted the civil rights lawyer. "There's something bigger here," he told her. "I have a file. A case. They covered it up, and now they're trying to scare me into silence." The lawyer nodded. "Then we don't just sue. We expose." They began building a second case, a bigger case, one that could shake the city's police department to its core. Amara speaks out. A local news station invited Amara for a short interview. At first, she was nervous. "I don't know what to say," she whispered to her father. He smiled. "Just tell your truth." On camera, Amara sat in a chair too big for her, holding her doll for courage. The reporter asked, "How did it feel when they grabbed you?" Amara paused. Then she said quietly, "Like I didn't matter." The reporter nodded. What do you want people to learn from this? Amara looked straight into the camera. That every kid matters. That we shouldn't be afraid to go shopping, or to be black, or to be small. The clip went viral again. Even more powerful than the first. An old friend reaches out. A few days later, Marcus received a message on social media. It was from an old friend, a retired police captain. Meet me. I have something to show you. They met in a park, away from cameras and noise. The retired captain handed Marcus a flash drive. What's this? The truth. About case #4187. The real files. I saved them before they got deleted. I always knew you'd come back for them. Marcus stared at the drive in his hand. Why now? Because your daughter reminded me why I wore the badge in the first place. The city was no longer quiet. What started as one small video outside a toy store had become a storm. It was on every phone, every TV, every conversation. People didn't just want answers now. They wanted justice. And the fire was spreading. Protests begin. Crowds gathered outside the police department every day. People held signs. Stop targeting our kids. Truth matters. Justice for Amara. And every child. News helicopters flew above. Police stood in lines. The people shouted louder. Even children came holding their toys in the air, like shields. One little girl held a sign that said, I could be Amara. Marcus and the lawyer take action. Inside a quiet law office, Marcus and the civil rights lawyer sat with a team of experts. On the table were the files, the video clips, the flash drive, everything they had collected. This is more than one case, the lawyer said. It's a pattern. Marcus nodded. They thought they could silence the past, but it just spoke again. The plan was clear. A public lawsuit, a press conference, a full media release of the hidden video. They were going to expose everything. The hidden video is released. On a Thursday afternoon, the lawyer posted the flash drive video online. No music, no effects, just truth. People watched in silence. A teenage boy, Officer Miller, a shove, laughter, blood. Then, a second video, Amara's clip, played right after it. The two videos, side by side, told a powerful story. Asterisk, asterisk, first, they hid the pain. Now they hide behind power. But not anymore. Asterisk, asterisk. The video reached 10 million views in 3 hours. The threats return. Later that night, Marcus stood at the window while Amara slept in her room. His phone buzzed again. A private number. He answered. This time, the voice was lower, cold. You think this ends well? You're putting your girl in danger. Marcus didn't speak. The voice continued. Drop the case, or we'll drop something you care about. Then silence. Marcus stared out at the city lights, jaw tight. He turned and looked at Amara's bedroom door. Come for me, he whispered. Not her. Police department in panic. The police department was now under national pressure. Reporters stood outside the building day and night. Leaked emails showed internal panic. The mayor released a statement. We are reviewing all related cases. No one is above the law. But people weren't satisfied. They'd wanted real action. They'd wanted arrests. They wanted to know how many more Amaras were out there. Amara finds her voice. At school, Amara was different now. Still quiet, but stronger. Some kids asked for photos with her. Others asked, Are you scared? She always gave the same answer. I was, but now I'm angry. The school invited her to speak at assembly. She stood on stage, small but powerful, holding the microphone. My name is Amara, she began. I'm 12, and I was treated like a criminal before I could even pay for my toy. The room was silent. But I'm not just a story. I'm not just a video. I'm a kid, and I deserve to be safe. Thunderous applause. Public support explodes. More people join their side. Civil rights groups, celebrities, lawyers, teachers. People donated to help fund the legal case. One artist painted a mural of Amara on a building wall, her holding her doll, with words above her. She didn't break the law. The law broke her. Officer Miller speaks out. Finally, after weeks of silence, Officer Kyle Miller gave a statement on live TV. He stood stiff, nervous, reading from paper. "I acted on what I thought was suspicious behavior. I didn't mean to cause harm." Then came the words that shocked everyone. "I was told years ago to stay quiet about case 4187. I followed orders. I regret it." Reporters screamed questions, but he walked away without answering more. The internet exploded. People asked, "Who gave the order? How high does this go? Is this bigger than we thought?" A storm is coming. Back at home, Marcus sat beside Amara as rain hit the windows. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Amara nodded. "Are you?" He smiled. "Not really, but I'm proud." She looked up. "Even if they come after us." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "They already did, and we're still standing." At first, Marcus thought things were finally moving in the right direction. People were listening. The video had gone viral. Officer Miller had spoken out. But the system wasn't done. Now, it turned its eye toward Marcus. That morning, while pouring coffee, he got a call. "Agent Daniels, you're being called in for review. Your badge and access are temporarily suspended." He stood still, staring at the phone. "On what grounds?" "Ongoing investigation." They didn't say more. But Marcus understood. They were trying to shut him down from the inside. Police spinned the story. The department made a new public statement. This time, they flipped the script. Agent Daniels used private files for personal gain. He broke federal protocol. He endangered a minor. Suddenly, headlines changed. Hero or hacker? Did Amara's dad cross the line? News panels debated his actions. Some defended him. Others called him a dangerous whistleblower. Marcus sat in silence, watching them tear him apart. Amara seized the pain. At school, Amara saw it too. Kids whispered. Some stared. One boy said, "Is your dad going to jail?" She didn't answer, but her heart was heavy. When she got home, she found her father sitting in the dark. "Are you okay?" she asked. He didn't look at her, just whispered, "I fought for the truth, but maybe I lost." She came closer. "You didn't lose," she said softly. "They're just scared." He looked at her then, his daughter, so young, yet so brave. "You really believe that?" She nodded. "You taught me to." The lawyer strikes back. The next day, Marcus's lawyer held a press conference. She stood strong in front of reporters. "Let's be clear. Marcus Daniels is being punished for telling the truth. He exposed a system that protects abuse, and now it wants revenge." She raised a copy of the flash drive. "This evidence isn't fake. The pain is real. The truth is on our side." The crowd applauded. Someone shouted, "What's next?" The lawyer smiled coldly. "Next, we take them to court." The case goes to court. The courtroom was full. Cameras waited outside. People lined up hours early. Marcus sat at the front with his lawyer. Amara sat behind him, holding her doll tightly. The other side, lawyers for the city, for the police, sat with cold faces and thick folders. The judge entered. The trial began. Amara takes the stand. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. But she stood tall in the witness box. The lawyer asked, "What happened that day at the toy store?" Amara's voice was soft but clear. "I was just trying to buy a doll. I didn't steal anything. But they grabbed me. They treated me like I was already guilty." The courtroom was quiet. "How did that make you feel?" She paused. Her voice cracked. "Like I wasn't a kid anymore." Even the judge looked down. A surprise witness appears. Then, something no one expected. The retired police captain who had given Marcus the flash drive entered the courtroom. He walked to the stand slowly with tired eyes. "I served 30 years," he said, "and I saw things no one should ignore." He told them about case 4187. He named names. He admitted cover-ups. "We failed those kids. And if we ignore Amara now, we failed her too." Gasps echoed in the courtroom. The people pushed back. Outside, the crowd grew. They held signs. They chanted Amara's name. They shouted one word over and over: justice, justice, justice. TV anchors called it the Amara movement. People in other cities started their own protests. Children shared their own stories online. This wasn't just about Amara anymore. This was a fight for every child who had ever been silenced. A dangerous turn. That night, something happened. Marcus and Amara returned home to find their door open. Drawers pulled out, papers on the floor. Amara froze. What happened? Marcus looked around slowly. They were here. A message was spray-painted on the wall. Drop the KAC or ALS. Standing strong. The next morning, Marcus held a press conference of his own. He stood in front of the rec department. Cameras rolling. "They broke into my home. They scared my daughter. And they think this will make me stop." He looked straight into the camera. "I'm not stopping. I'm not scared. Because if I don't fight for her, who will?" The city held its breath. For weeks, the trial had continued. Arguments were made. Witnesses spoke. Secrets came out. Secrets the system had buried for years. Now, the courtroom was full again. It was the day everyone had been waiting for. The final arguments. Marcus's lawyer stood tall before the jury. She pointed at Amara. That little girl was not just accused. She was dragged, humiliated, and ignored because of her skin color. And that officer, he had a past, a history, and he was protected by this system. But today, you decide if this system still gets to silence the truth. She turned to face the other side. They want you to believe this was just a mistake. But mistakes don't get covered up. Mistakes don't leave broken kids. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. Judge's instructions. The judge looked over the courtroom. The law is meant to serve the people. Today, you, the jury, will decide whether that law protected a system or a child. The jury stood and left the room to decide. Amara gripped her father's hand. Will they believe me? Marcus looked into her eyes. They already do. Now we just wait. Hours pass. Outside, a crowd waited. Signs, chants, tears. News anchors repeated. We are still waiting for the verdict in the Amara Daniels case. Inside the courtroom, the air felt heavy. Amara held her doll close. Marcus sat like stone, barely breathing. Then, the door opened. The jury has reached a decision. The verdict. The courtroom stood. The jury filed in. The foreman stood and spoke into the mic. We, the jury, find the city police department liable for emotional damage and misconduct. We also recommend charges be brought against Officer Kyle Miller and others involved in past cover-ups. The courtroom burst into gasps. Some clapped. Others cried. Amara's eyes filled with tears. She looked at her dad. He was crying too. You did it, she whispered. He shook his head. We did. The world reacts. Within minutes, the news spread everywhere. Amara wins. The system finally answers. Officer Miller arrested. Internal review of 200-plus cases launched. More officers came forward. New evidence was revealed. What had started as one small voice had now changed an entire department. Amara speaks to the world. A week later, Amara stood on a stage. She was invited to speak at a national children's rights event. She wore a simple dress. Her doll was in her hand. She looked out at the sea of faces, kids, parents, teachers, leaders. "I was just trying to buy a doll," she said. "But I learned something bigger. I learned that we can fight back. Even when we're small. Even when people say we don't matter. I learned that one voice can become many." The crowd stood up. Tears, applause, hope. A quiet moment. Back at home, everything was peaceful again. Marcus cooked dinner. Amara sat at the table, drawing in her notebook. She looked up and smiled. "Can we give the doll a new name now?" He laughed. "What name?" She thought for a moment. "Justice." They smiled at each other.